I'm going to talk about 5 books on ministry, 5 that I have found really helpful. Not the only ones that I've read, perhaps not the best ones, but 5 solid ones nonetheless. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sanctus Forum. I am Michael Stewart Robb, better known as Mike, and I thought I'd sit in a different part of the room today. We do everyday spirituality here, mainly Jesus' spirituality, and you can't go very far with Jesus without coming up against his invitation to serve others, help others. And we call this ministry. That's the Latin word for service. And Jesus has his particular way of doing it, and he passed that on to other people, to people like me and to people like you. And whether you are vocational or you are a volunteer in doing and helping people Jesus' way, these are 5 books that I found helpful in helping others. The first one is Eugene Peterson's The Pastor. Now, this is not a ministry theory book, ministry philosophy, as we call it. This is a ministry life book. This is his memoir of his time, 29 years as a pastor. And it shows where his theory meets the road, where the rubber meets the road, and that's where all of our theories are tested, is in real life, in working with real people. And Peterson does a really great job of showing how that actually did work for him. But this is just a great book to immerse yourself in with respect to how you might actually work with people. The second book is an old book, Oswald Chambers' Workman of God. I had to read this in one of my classes. It is a pretty simple book. Not going to challenge hardly anybody, but there aren't too many books like this, and I'll explain why. He has a number of chapters on different kinds of people that you might meet in ministry. And for example, the hardy annuals, the backsliders, the two-faced, sick souls, and stupid souls, which he means fools. As you can see, he gives clever names to all of them, and he explains what he means by all of that. But when you step into ministry, you start working with different kinds of people, not personalities so much as people who have responded in different ways to what Jesus is doing, and it's not always in the best of ways. And so we need to think about how we're going to help these people and move them along. And Chambers does this in this simple book. It's out of print, hard to get, but I think you can get it online. In my very first degree, I studied Christian education and ministry. Now, back then, we were already starting to do quite a bit of spiritual formation, but we still did a lot of education theory. And I thought a lot about what book stands out to me now, over 20 years later, with respect to all that education stuff that I did. And the one that I came up with is an odd choice. It is The Educational Imagination by Elliot Eisner. Not a cheap book, but it is a very good book, particularly chapter 4, in which he explains 3 curricula that all schools teach. And you can very easily apply this to a lot of different things other than schools, such as churches or groups or organizations, any kind of people who are trying to pass information, training, anything like that on to other people. And his 3 curricula are really, have been very important for me as I think through what we are doing when we say we're going to be teaching people, helping people through teaching. The 4th book that I would recommend is a book that explores the history of ministering to other people. It is A History of the Cure of Souls by John T. McNeil. It is an excellent book for looking back at all the various things that we have done and tried. And it gives us a lot of perspective on what we're doing now. I don't find that a lot of the books that are published these days about ministry are all that helpful. And you look at the different options, the different conferences that talk about, hey, do this, try this. This is what worked for us. Oh, I just don't find them very helpful. And part of that has to do with the fact that I do actually know what has been done in the past, and it just seems so much better. But the only way you're going to know that is if you actually read a book that talks about this. This is the best one that I know of, and maybe there are others. I hope there are others, because this is limited in some ways. And especially if you are a vocational minister, you need to know what we have done in the past as vocational ministers. That's this book. Now, I want to talk about the fifth book in a second. It is a very important book to me, especially, but I know that for anybody who is serving, whether it's vocational, whether it is as a volunteer, we need times of training and of being off. We can't just keep going. That's why we have created Among Wolves Serving Like Jesus as a virtual retreat, virtual course to just get something out there, a kind of help now thing, so that you can, regardless of whether you are, for a very limited expense, have some additional training and just a way to take time off. Now, the very best would be if I showed up personally, but I'm limited, you're limited, and so doing it virtually is not the best, but it does communicate something, much like these videos. Today I wanted to give a little bit of a inside view to this course, and I have to go get my iPad for that, which I've forgotten. Okay, got it. This is what it looks like on the inside. It is a medium-sized course, and if you see here, you have the various units, which are based around the messages that I gave for the retreat in Spain, and then you have the Alone Together documentary, which you can view when you're in there. I have to go back a page. It is video based. We don't recommend that you binge watch it, but that you take it at a slow pace, sabbatically, and doing it on your Sabbath day, your day off, is an excellent way to do it. You can find out more over at sanctus.institute/Among Wolves for the various options that we have. So go ahead and stop this video, go over there now, and then you can come back for the fifth book, or not, or just stay here. The fifth book that I want to recommend is E.M. Bound's Power Through Prayer. Now, I have a copy of it in this very large book. E.M. Bound's On Prayer has 5 other books in it, so I haven't read those other 5 books. Power Through Prayer is actually his most famous book. You can find it many places, not only in this collection of things. It's largely a book about prayer and preaching, which is extremely important. I think it's pretty obvious to me that we have a lot of preachers who don't do a whole lot of praying, and E.M. Bound is a really important wake-up call to that. But it's the same principle regardless of what you're going to be doing, however you're going to be helping people, whether it's one-on-one kinds of things or the group is larger. Let me just read something to you, because he just has some very important ways of looking at things. First sentence: we are continually striving to create new methods, plans, and organizations to advance the church. Men are God's method. The church is looking for better methods. God is looking for better men. And he goes on to talk about how important who we are before God, with God, is for our work with other people. That is an extremely important message for today's ministers, and I hope that you read that book, as well as the other 4, as well as many others. I'm sure there is a book on your heart that has been helpful for you, or multiple. Let us know about that in the comments. Maybe I will put that on my reading list for next year. Maybe I'll talk about it on this channel. Maybe I already have it. Maybe I just forgot to mention it. But let us know, and it's great to have had this opportunity to speak to you today. Thanks for being here. See you next time. Bye. Not short like I thought it was going to be.